What's up guys, it's Scoutblader here and welcome back to Star Ocean Anamnesis. So, as predicted, they're rerunning the Halloween event this week, so let's take a look at the update, shall we? Alright, first of all, we have the Cave of Endurance return. So this is actually a maze that they had previously a couple months ago, and enemies in this maze are resistant to physical attacks, which means they want you to use mostly symbology attacks, and you can see Muria right there doing a lot of damage. I don't think that's for this maze, but if you want to get through this maze, Muria is the way to go with her Plasma Cyclone, and we actually have a lot of other invokers now. It used to be pretty tough if I recall correctly, but now with all of our other strong characters, you should easily be able to do this. And then secondly, we have a new story chapter, the Planet Leverance, and this is actually chapter 9, which means there's only one left. There's 10 chapters in total, and then afterwards we move on to episode 2. So make sure to complete every single story mission here, including all of the barrier blasted ones, to get a ton of gems out of it. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And they also have this, the new scenario chapter commemoration campaign. And it lasts for a whole week, and they introduce some new achievements with this event, so make sure that you do all of these achievements within this week or else they'll disappear. And they also introduced a level up campaign. I'm not sure who even uses those, but I guess they could come in handy when you don't need them. And then we have the Halloween event, Operation Be a Ghost. So this event obviously ran last year in October, and something funny was actually going on with the boss, but I'll talk about that in a second. So there are two currencies for this event, the pumpkin cookies and the ghost cookies, and the pumpkin cookies can be exchanged in a shop that you can see down here, which contains some crappy weapons that I highly recommend you transmute, except for the farmer's arms, because those are actually kind of decent for melee. So if you don't have any elemental arms, I definitely recommend hanging on to a pair of those. And then the accessories, the White Rose badge can be acquired from the box draw. That one is kind of decent, but if you're not fighting poison bosses, then you don't really have a use for it. And the Jinx necklace, that's actually a very good accessory. It used to be a lot better, but now we have the extrication ring, which gives rush mode plus 10% damage. So that one is for more offensive purposes, whereas the Jinx necklace is if you feel like the guts is actually going to help you out. So I definitely recommend picking up a pair of the Jinx necklaces, or one Jinx necklace, I guess. And here's the box draw. So the ghost cookies can be used in the box draw, and from the box draw you can get small limit breakers. For the first 3 boxes, I think it's only like 10 draws that you can do, which means you need like a total of 50 cookies, and you get a total of 50 small limit breakers out of that, which is enough to get 1 ace character, 1 limit break level. So I recommend you go through at least 3 boxes so that you can get all of that stuff, and nothing else is kind of important in this box. The AP Starseed is cool, but that last box requires a lot of cookies. So here are the titles within 2 minutes and 4 minutes, and then the boss, Pumpkin Cryptvine. So as I was saying, something funny was happening with him. He was actually glitched out when they first introduced him for like the first day of the event, which means that he basically couldn't move, he couldn't do any attacks, which means that you had free reign on his Misery 3 version, and you could easily get the 2-minute title. And then when they fixed him in a patch, he actually became quite difficult. So Pumpkin Cryptvine, don't take him lightly, because he's weak to light. Get it? And the other event we got is the Star Ocean Dreamers Misery 2 and 3 difficulties. So these difficulties introduce a new type of coin as always, the Academy Misery 2 coins, which you can exchange in a different shop. And this one actually has good stuff, so make sure to pick up the Platinum Threads, because those are rare. Limit Breakers are always needed, and the AP Starseed is also a nice addition. And there's also this thing right here, the Intact Talisman, which increases attack damage dealt by 10% when your HP is at 100% and gives you anti-flinch when your HP is at 100%. I highly recommend you pick that up, and you can get that by clearing Misery 3 once and then pick it up from the achievements. But this thing would actually be very good for characters that have HP regen or some form of lifesteal, just any type of sustain. That would be very good for them. And then the boss is the Mother Virus Pod, and this thing, I imagine this thing's actually pretty tough, because even the Misery 1 was a a little strong for auto players, so Misery 2 and 3 are going to be really difficult, I imagine. He's less weak to poison now, apparently, so that kind of sucks for Nell players. And he also got initialization. I don't remember what initialization does. I do remember it being a pretty strong attack, though. And his defense is still very high, which is going to make speedrunning him a little tough. And then they also brought back the Halloween Gacha, which lasts for a whole 2 weeks, so that gives you plenty of time to contemplate whether you want to pull or not, which that could be good for some and bad for others. But first we have Devil Claire, who increases her own attack stat by 20%, increases the entire party's attack damage dealt by 30% when the hit count is at 50 or more, increases her own attack stat by 20% when the hit count is at 100 or more, and reduces her AP cost by 20%. And she also gives all attackers anti-flinch of 10% or 15% of HP or less. And her Rush Waking Hell increases the entire party's defense by 30% and reduces the enemy's defense by 30%, both for 20 seconds each. And then she also has good hit counts on all of her attacks. She's really fast because she's a dual sword user, and her attack stat is also sitting at a mighty 3245, which can go even higher when you get the hit count requirement for her attack up. So Devil Claire is still one of the strongest DPS characters that we have, and if you feel like playing a very powerful, very fast dual sword character, I highly recommend you pull for her, and I'm absolutely not biased here. And then we have Were Millie, who increases the party's attack stat by 45% or 55% when the hit count is at 100 or more. She increases the party's AP recovery on normal attacks by 100%. She also nullifies the movement rate reduction fields and rush gauge reduction fields for the entire party. And she increases her own damage for Pumpkin Smash by 100% when the skill chain is at 4 or more. And then her rush has a 4000% multiplier, and it increases elemental damage for the entire party by 50%. For 20 seconds. And then her attacks are actually pretty solid because they're all kind of unique to her, at least for now. And Pumpkin Smash is a very strong DPS attack, especially with her first talent. So Were Millie is a very strong attack buffer, not as strong as 2B because her attack buff is not quite as high, and she doesn't have the same versatility, I guess, that 2B has, but she is still a very solid attacker. And if you're looking for an attack buffer that can also do decent damage, I also highly recommend you pick up Were Millie. And then we have Vampire Victor, who gives the entire party a 15% life steal. He increases the entire party's damage dealt by 40% and increases their damage dealt, or their elemental damage, by 15% when your HP is at 100%. He gives himself a 3% life steal on his skills, and he also reduces his own AP cost by 40% and increases his attack by 30%, both when the skill chain is at 3 or more. And his rush has a 4000% multiplier, and it recovers the entire party's HP by 40% and increases their single target damage dealt by 40% for 20 seconds. And then all of his attacks have good hit counts to them, very good actually, and their AP costs are very low, and they go even lower when the skill chain is at 3 or more, and they've got decent multipliers. So Vampire Victor, he can actually substitute as a healer in a lot of different parties because of the lifesteal that he has, as well as the HP recovery that he has on his rush. It makes him a very solid sharpshooter. I would actually put him on about the same level as 9S. 9S can do different things like buff the party's mobility, whereas Vampire Victor is more of a healing based character. But I would say that Vampire Victor is a lot more suited for public parties, whereas 9S can be he can deal a lot more damage than Vampire Victor, so I would go with him if you want like pre-made parties. Awakened Maria is also another contender, but she kind of doesn't have a heal herself, so she kind of does different things than Vampire Victor as well. So overall, I would say all three of these are very good characters right now. They all do different things too, so it doesn't matter which one you get. You should be able to slot them into your party somewhere, with Claire being the DPS, Millie being the buffer, and Vampire Victor being the damage buffer and healer. So if you're still lacking like in any one of these roles, you might want to throw a pull at this and see what you get. Of course, the gacha is very cruel, and it's probably not going to give you what you want. Well, here we have the awakened characters, and I guess I can't look at them here, can I? Damn it. By the way, my voice is, it's killing me. I don't know what's happening here, man. This sucks. But for the weapons that they introduced with the Halloween event, we have the Crimson Fork Tridents. These are dual blades, which imbue your attacks with light, give you critical hit chance and damage. And these are very excellent dual swords that I also highly recommend you pick up if you're planning on running dual blade characters. Unfortunately, they're in a gacha with 4 different weapons, so your chances of actually pulling it are very low. But luckily, 2 of the other weapons are also very decent. The Bloodstone Protectors have light imbuement, and they give you 80-10 guts, and these are actually daggers. So these are also very good if you're planning on running dagger characters. Highly recommend you pick them up. And then we have the Striped Cat Mitts. These are the arm equivalent of the light weapons, and these are actually very good, increasing light damage as well by 20% and reducing AP cost by 10%. So we don't really have many arm characters. We're getting more by the day, or I guess by the week. So I do recommend you pick those up, because those are very decent. And then the Evil Pumpkin, which still is not that great, because we have like 3 orb characters, but this thing could actually be very useful for I think Mavel, who doesn't have an ice orb yet. So if you are playing as Mavel, you might want to think about actually pulling for this thing, because it could be useful for her. But it increases elemental damage by 20% and increases critical hit and damage, or a critical hit chance and damage, both by 10%. So yeah, like I said, if you're running Mavel, you might want to pick that up. And here is the second batch of awakened characters. Very nice. And there's actually 3 characters now instead of 4. So first of all, we have Edge, who increases the entire party's attack stat by 25%, increases single target damage by 15%, increases the entire party's HP by 50%, gives them 25% anti-flinch, 25% HP anti-flinch. It allows him to do air dodges, and it also nullifies enemy critical hits when he's assault charging, and he also reduces his own AP cost by 20% during skill chain 3 and increases his critical hit chance by 30%. His rush now has a 4000% multiplier, and it also increases the entire party's elemental damage by 50% for 20 seconds. So I would say that Edge still has the same role that he did pre-awakening, which is that he fits very well in public parties, but not so much in pre-made parties, because he has this like random mishmash of talents, and he's not really good at any of the things that he buffs. So he buffs the party's attack by 25%, but if you want an attack buff, just bring an attack buffer. And the HP buff is very good, but that's usually only necessary if you're going to play on auto, because it gives the computer a lot more room for error. So does the anti-flinch. I guess the air evasion does give him a lot more freedom when he's using Raging Strike, so that's kind of good. And the elemental damage up, that's a good one, but yeah, just bring an elemental damage buffer if you want that. So he is actually still really good for public play, like I said, so just bring him if you're planning on autoing. And then we have Awakening Celine, who actually got a very big buff. So she buffs Int for the entire party by 30% and also nullifies freezing, which doesn't really do much. She also has a 25% chance of adding silence to all of her own attacks. She increases her own Int damage by 20% when her HP is at 100%, and she also gives herself anti-flinch casting. Very nice. She reduces her own symbol invoking time by 50%, reduces her AP cost by 40%, and increases her rush damage by 10%. She increases her Int by 20% even further, and she also increases her own offensive symbology damage by 50% when the skill chain is at 3 or more. And her rush now has a 4000% multiplier, and it increases her Int stat by 50%. And she also got a very strong new attack called Enhance, which increases the entire party's attack stat by 25% for 20 seconds. Very nice. So Celine is a very strong invoker now. She actually has a decent base Int stat of 3200 now, which she buffs even further with her 30% party-wide Int buff, and then she also has all of the other talents that increase her Int damage dealt as well as her offensive symbology damage dealt. So that makes her a very powerful DPS. Her rush is also really strong now. So you kind of don't really have to build invoker-based parties around her anymore if you want her to be useful. You can use her in the same way that you would use Invoker Sophia, just toss her into whatever party you want and she can actually do stuff. And that Enhance can actually help physical characters out now. So that's actually really cool. And then Millie is the last character that got her awakening. She increases the entire party's elemental damage dealt by 30%. She reduces her own damage taken by 30%, reduces her AP cost by 25%. She also gives the entire party a 5% HP regen every 3 seconds and nullifies silence for herself for 3 minutes. She also increases the entire party's critical hit damage by 20% when their HP is at 100%, and she also gives the entire party an 80-10 guts. And her rush recovers 80% of the party's HP and increases their critical hit chance by 50% for 20 seconds, and her new skill, Cure Condition, heals the status ailments of one ally. So Millie is actually a very good passive buffer. She has a lot of those buffs, like elemental damage up, she gives the party HP regen, critical hit damage up, and then post-rush she also increases their critical hit chance, and she also gives the entire party an 80-10 guts, which is still a very rare buff, and 80-10 is amazing for survivability. If you've played Reyna, you know how strong that guts of hers is, so it basically means that nobody's gonna die, especially when you consider that she has almost a full heal on her rush. It might as well be full because she now has an HP regen as well. So pretty much, if you throw her into your party, you can guarantee that nobody is gonna die because she is that strong of a passive buffer. Unfortunately, her skills kind of suck still, so she can't really do much in the way of actually attacking. But like I said, very good passively. And that does it for the new update. I'm actually really looking forward to fighting Pumpkin Cryptvine again, because like I said last time, it wasn't really much of a fight because I pretty much got all of my farming done before they patched him, so I didn't have any reason to fight him again. But now I actually do, because he also drops those return coins. So I'm looking forward to that. And also the new chapter, because that means a lot more gems to add to my wallet, I guess. So I guess that about does it for this video, so hope you guys enjoyed that, hope that was helpful, and I guess I will see you all next time. Peace!